Well, I'm live, and if you're watching this after the fact, because there's no one here right now, I just realized that I scheduled this stream for the wrong time, so probably confuse people. So we'll see if anyone shows up today. We got a couple people. Welcome. If you're coming in, apologies if you were confused by the time I scheduled it for. Apparently I scheduled it for the wrong time. So we'll see how many people we get today. As you're coming in though, let me know where in the world you're watching from. Hi everybody, what's up? Good to see some people coming in even though I messed it up. It's been a while since I made a major mess up in the live stream, so it was bound to happen. Hey, what's up? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Joe? I've never seen that spelling before. India, welcome. Yeah, I get a lot of people contacting me from India. Of course, it's a big country, a lot of people, but I think also the internet access there. As far as I know, as far as I've heard, a lot of people got smartphones and internet access, kind of skipping the the dial-up connections that we started with here and everything. It just went straight to that mobile device accessing the internet. How can you join yours? How can join your Zoom? If you're talking about the group where the support and discussion group where we meet a few times a week in Zoom to talk about our journeys, to check in and make some accountability partners and healing focused friendships, then you can learn all about that at the link I just posted in the chat. Welcome. As you're coming in, let us know where in the world you are viewing from, and you can get started posting in your questions. This is your hour, so if you have questions about recovery, if you want to share anything about recovery, if you have questions about what resources to look for, about tips for handling urges or for designing your life and your day so that you don't face as many urges, whatever you want to ask, this is your hour, so come up with your questions. Watching from the UK, welcome. First question, what are the PIED recovery signs? Well, there are several to look for. Of course, the best PIED recovery sign that you can encounter is having satisfying, successful sex. And I know that most people want to see some signs before they get to that point for a confidence boost to reassure themselves that they're on the right path, that this is working. And some of those that you can look for are increased nocturnal or morning erections or random erections throughout the day, just increased qualitative desire for the people in your life that you're attracted to. Maybe you notice your girlfriend more, or you notice someone on the street that you meet a little bit more or in a different way than you have for a while. Another sign or a test that you can do, and you should definitely prepare for this well and make sure it doesn't become a slippery slope. Check out my article and video called Is Masturbating Porn Free? No. Is Masturbation Healthy or Not? Is what it was called. And in that article I describe a test that you can do along recovery in which you masturbate, but you do so with gentle, lubricated stimulation and without any fantasy or visual stimulation at all, just enjoying the physical sensations. If you're a healthy man or who has never encountered pornography or have gone far along enough in recovery, you should be able to do this and to achieve and maintain an erection and reach orgasm without it being extremely difficult. If it is very difficult or you feel like you're forcing it, then stop. Maybe try again in a month or so. So this is something you can do every few weeks or every couple of months along recovery if you can handle that without it becoming a slippery slope back to compulsive masturbation and porn use in order to gauge your recovery. But even if you're able to do this easily, that's a good sign that you're physically at the place where you should be able to be physically capable of sex, but there might still be things holding you back, so you can't necessarily expect everything to go perfectly that first attempt. You might have rewiring to do, especially if you have very little or no sexual experience. The experience of pleasuring yourself and touching yourself is extremely different from the intimacy experienced between two people in bed. And you might also have some anxiety to work through. And if you do have anxiety around sex, then that can stop you from enjoying yourself and relaxing and achieving your erection and maintaining that erection for real sex until you deal with that. And I have articles on that as well, videos on that. So check out Overcoming Sexual Anxiety, Sexual Performance Anxiety on my website, addictedtointernetporn.com. Next question, do I think that dopamine detox can speed up recovery from PIED? If by dopamine detox, you mean abstaining from some of the super stimuli that are unique to the modern world that stimulate dopamine, such as mostly technology, maybe video games or gambling, watching movies. I'm not sure what you would include in your dopamine detox. A true dopamine detox is not really possible because dopamine is an essential neurochemical in the functioning of any animal. And without any dopamine at all, you would just lie there completely catatonic. So you can't completely detox from dopamine, and so you have to decide what counts as a dopamine detox for you and what is potentially something that you are overly reliant on as a mood regulator, such as binge watching TV shows or perhaps a substance. And if that is something that you're considering, it can help in this journey, but more on an emotional level. I can't guarantee that it will speed up recovery from PIED, but it can help you to grow as a person and to maybe discover if you have other outlets for your addictive compulsive behavior. Because most people who have an addiction, they don't just engage in that behavior with one thing, whether it be porn or alcohol or gambling. They have many things that they can look to for that escape, because addiction is it's a dysfunctional way of trying to satisfy needs or cope with difficult emotions. And so, a smoker who's addicted to tobacco might be addicted to tobacco, but might also be using alcohol or gambling or something else when between cigarettes as a way to consistently press that escape button that addiction provides. So it can be a good way to learn about that and to just get back in touch with enjoying life for what it is without the constant bombardment of electronic distractions and flashing screens. But as far as recovery from PIED is concerned, you probably will not notice a big difference if you go on a dopamine detox. And that is because there are neurons in our brain specifically attuned to sexual stimuli. And these are not going to be accessed by playing a video game or gambling, which can be very stimulating, but sexuality is such an important and intrinsic part of any animal, so necessary to the furtherance of our species and to our evolution, that it has its own set of neurons. And without some sort of substance like heroin that artificially accesses those neurons, you're going to be getting a detox as long as you are abstinent from pornography, edging, fantasy, masturbation, or sex. Cynical Idealist asks, what can you do about delayed ejaculation? So a lot of people will struggle with delayed ejaculation who also have PIED. If you've read my story or heard me talk about my story, you know that applied to me as well. I had severe PIED, but even once I recovered from that and was able to have sex, I struggled with reaching orgasm at all and regaining sensitivity. Time is the most important factor. Just more time away from pornography, away from compulsive masturbation. If you do decide to masturbate, it's important to use lubrication and keep it gentle, because by using overly forceful stimulation, you can desensitize yourself and make the actual sensations of real sex not feel as poignant. And without that sensitivity, you can struggle to reach orgasm during real sex. So that's important. It's also important if you are struggling with delayed ejaculation and you want to be able to reach orgasm during sex without having to touch yourself to finish yourself off or asking her to touch you in a way that provides more stimulation, then it's important not to do so. If you restrict your body to only having orgasm during penetrative sex, if that is your goal, then your body will adapt more quickly than if you allow yourself climax, allow yourself orgasm with other means. So that's my advice on delayed ejaculation. What can also help is trying different positions. The getting to know your body, especially if you don't have much sexual experience, as you're rewiring, involves experimentation, trying new things, trying new sexual positions. And a lot of people find that they are more able to reach orgasm during sex in certain positions rather than others. And that's, of course, unique to each person. Hi Noah, do you think it's beneficial to create a narrative for what your life can be like without porn and what life will be if you don't quit? The sensitivity I have towards desiring porn feels insurmountable. I think it's absolutely beneficial to imagine what your life can be like without porn. Yeah. Often when I work with clients, I'll give them some journaling prompts to have them thinking about this journey in new ways between our calls. And two of those prompts that I first give people are, what are you afraid will happen if you do not change and become porn free? And imagine your life in vivid detail 1 year from now if you become completely porn free now. It's important to be aware of what either option looks like, because that gives you some push motivation and some pull motivation. You're being pushed away from that alternative that you do not desire. What are you afraid will happen if you do not change and become porn free? Lose your relationship? Are you never going to be able to have a healthy relationship? Are you going to wallow in mediocrity and not have the energy and the ambition to make your dreams come true? And also that pull motivation. What are you pulled by? What ideals for your life, what vision for your life do you have that you want to see yourself achieve? So yeah, I would recommend you answer those two journaling prompts for yourself. Be detailed and perhaps remind yourself of those two visions, those two alternatives on a regular basis. Disha, I think maybe your first post didn't show up. Yeah, I only see one of your messages, and it looks like it's the second part of two parts. So post that first one again, or say it in a different way. Maybe it was caught by a spam filter or something. Hi Noah, if someone says to you, go back to porn for 1 year and give you $1,000, do you agree or not? $1,000 to like destroy my life for 1 year? No, I'm no. I mean, if it was like $10 million, I don't know. I could do a lot of good for the world with $10 million, so I'd have to consider it. But no, $1,000, certainly not. Hunter, I am 27 now, and I've been fapping since I was 4 years old. I can go 3 days max. I cannot go more than that. I'm a virgin and have anxiety. Yeah, it sounds like this is a very deeply ingrained habit for you, but just because every past experience has been one way, consistent masturbation, doesn't mean that that has to be the whole future. It's going to take time, definitely, to learn how to live in a different way and to build the skills to act differently and to react differently to emotions that perhaps prompt you now to masturbate. But if that is a goal that you have, if that's something that you want to explore, a life without pornography or without masturbation, at least temporarily, then you deserve to give yourself that shot and to learn what you need to learn to make it happen. All of us struggle with that voice inside of our head that says, you can't do this, this is impossible for you. And a little piece of you might believe that all the way up until you make it happen. One of those, just a little example, I was never a musical person. I was always looking at musicians and thinking, wow, that takes like so much skill and precision and talent. I'll never be able to do that. A year ago, I started playing music. And now you can see behind me, I've got my instruments. I love playing music. I can't say I'm an expert yet, but I've learned a lot, and I'm way better than I ever thought I could be. And so you're capable of far more than you think. And don't just look to the past to see what's possible. Much more than that is possible for you. Hey, geologist, I will have big news 5 days from now in the group. All right, man, I'm looking forward to it. How much time will it take in a practical sense? Asks Hunter. How much time to accomplish what? To accomplish being porn and masturbation free? That depends on you. It takes how long it takes. You can affect how long it takes by how much work you front load in this journey. If you really, really commit yourself to learning as much as possible, and this is really important to you, you can make it happen a lot faster. But it can take the time that it will take. And for some people, that means months of struggle. For some people, that means years. You can do a lot, though, to help yourself get to there faster. Guidance and support from others can be one of the most important factors in that speed of how quickly you reach that goal. So check into joining the group like Geologist has if you think that will be helpful for you, and that can be a very good first step. Elijah asks, where can I find an accountability partner? Again, the group, if you join there, there'll be plenty of people who will be willing to be your accountability partner. You can form a friendship, form a relationship there that will help you both support each other and have some accountability. But if you're looking for someone perhaps in your personal life, then that takes a conversation that most people find very difficult. Most of us don't have people in our lives that we can feel free to talk about our porn and masturbation habits with. But I published an article recently called How to Tell Her About Porn-Induced Erectile Dysfunction. And that's about telling someone you're starting to date or in a relationship with about your sexual dysfunction and recruiting their help and understanding in healing. But you can also look to that and adapt it to talking to anybody in your life about this, a friend, a family member. And if you can do that, then most times, I would say 95% of the time, those conversations go way better than people expect or fear that they will. And 5% of the time, it doesn't go well. And that's a possibility that you have to be prepared for. But most of the time, it does go a lot better than you expect. People admire the courage that it takes to be honest about that sort of thing and want to be supportive, want to help. And also, I'll be publishing an article and video in January about how to be and how to find and how to recruit an accountability partner. Andre says, hi Noah, thanks for your videos. They help me to understand the path I need to take, and the lives and stories really motivate me to keep going. Thanks. I appreciate that. Yeah, I love sharing people's stories because I don't think there's any better teaching tool than just learning from others' experiences. Hopefully, maybe I can share your story someday. If anyone wants to share their story for possible use in an upcoming article and video, success stories are great, but also stories of struggle or whatever you've experienced so far, you can go ahead and email me, noah@coachchurch.com. Bacha, do you advise me to stay away from the phone while recovering? That really depends on you. If the phone is how you mostly use pornography and it's a big trigger for you, then you at least have to have some rules and protections in place for yourself. For instance, maybe your phone does not go in your bedroom. A lot of guys struggle with waking up in the morning, first thing they do, pick up that phone, turn off the alarm, browse Instagram, browse YouTube, then before they knew it, they're using porn. Or late at night, you lie down in bed, you're tired, you're worn out, you're looking at your phone, then all of a sudden you have that thought, that sexual urge. If you can cut that chain earlier before you actually get to that moment of being triggered, it's going to be a lot easier for you. So if you just make it a rule, phone doesn't go into my bedroom, I'll leave it in the kitchen at night. That can really help get an alarm clock. Another thing that can really help is having some filtering software or accountability software installed on your phone. So for instance, on my phone, I know if I use this thing to look at porn, then my best friend and my mother and my sister are going to get a report about that because I have accountability software installed on that device. And so I just don't think of it as an option, and it's no longer a trigger for me. If it ever was, I never really used the phone very much for that. And some people decide, you know what, I don't need a smartphone, and it's doing more harm to my life than good. And I do have clients who get rid of the smartphone, give it away, or sell it, and then get a flip phone that does not have internet access. They can still text, they can still call, they can still maybe take pictures, but they cannot access the internet. May I ask what you do for a living? I do this. Yeah, this is my occupation now. I help people one-on-one with any problem in their lives related to pornography use. Most often that's porn-induced sexual dysfunction or porn addiction, or both. So that's what I spend most of my time doing, is helping people one-on-one. Also run a group. We meet 3 times a week to support and discuss this issue, support each other and discuss this issue, and make articles, make videos on this issue, and working on some other projects that I think will be very helpful for people out there as well. And I have ideas to expand what I do and reach more people and help people to understand the dangers of pornography and to recover from the harm that they may have done themselves if they decide that pornography no longer has a place in their lives. So that's what I do, and I'm very grateful to be able to do it for a living, because I feel like I can make a difference in people's lives. And no, I don't have a huge channel, and I don't have the reach that I hope to have one day, but I have been able to see the difference that this journey can make in so many people's lives, and to be a part of that process with them. I'm not taking the credit for what they have accomplished because they did the work, but to be a part of that, to help them access that information and the tools that they need to change their lives for the better, it's extremely fulfilling for me, and I very much enjoy it. I have been rebooting for 6 months and I had successful sex recently. However, I'm in a flatline now for 3 weeks. Could you give me some advice on what I should do? Hey, congratulations on 6 months and on the success that you've seen so far. Sometimes flatlines come at inopportune times, and it sounds like you might be starting to see someone. I don't know, maybe that was a one-time encounter, or maybe it's someone you're starting to date. But flatlines along recovery can be very unpredictable. They can sometimes come when maybe you have a bout of orgasms that you're not used to, and if you're not ready for that, that can send you back into a flatline. But oftentimes they don't really have a cause that you can pinpoint. They're just a part of recovery. And flatlines should not be something that you seek to end as soon as possible, because if you are in a flatline, that means, as far as everything that I've seen tells me, that your body needs that time to rest and to heal. And if you give yourself that time and let the flatline end on its own, you're much more likely to experience the benefits of recovery than if you try to force yourself out of that flatline before you're ready. So listen to your body. If you're not feeling like having sex or pursuing sexual experience, then don't force it. Yeah, D-Shot, I see your second message again, but I don't see the first. I don't know, maybe there's some filter that I have on that I can turn off. If any of you know how that works, let me know and I'll turn off that filter. One thing I noticed in my life is I don't have consistency. The goal seems to be faded away after a certain time passes. What can be done to achieve consistency and a daily life timetable you follow? Any daily life timetable you follow? So that was huge for me in my personal recovery, was consistency and habit and discipline in a schedule. And without that, I certainly wouldn't be where I am today. And I do have tools that I built for myself and now I share with clients to help people develop that consistency and that discipline and to design their lives. Because if we can design our days and carry that design into a habit that repeats, then we have so much more power to change the course of our lives, because our lives are what we do regularly. And I can give you just a preview of what one of those tools looks like. I have a daily page, I call it. So here's mine. Here's front and back. I have a printer, so I print this out each night. At the top here, there is a letter to myself, and this letter changes sometimes, but what it's supposed to do is to remind me of what's important to me, remind me of the lessons that I've learned that I really don't want to forget, remind me about the values that I want to have in my life, the things that I want myself to remember to be grateful for, and the vision I have for my future. So that each morning, the first thing that I do, or one of the first things, is to pick up this page and read this letter to myself, remind myself of the course that I am on. And each night, I print this out again. I might change something if I learned something that day that I want to remind myself of, or sometimes I might scrap it entirely, rewrite it, because I feel inspired to. And then beneath that is rules that I have decided for myself are rules that I need to follow in order to stay on my path. The don'ts that I have realized are important for me to maintain the things that I value and to not slide back into self-destructive behaviors. Some examples of this, one from earlier that's not a rule for me but can be a rule for a lot of you, is no smartphone in the bedroom. I don't bring my smartphone into the bedroom. One that I actually have is no browsing my phone in bed, because it's not a problem for me to have it on my bedside table as an alarm, but no phone browsing in bed. That never leads anywhere good. Another one for me is no using electronics or technology for entertainment until everything that I wanted to do that day is done. And in the past, when I was younger, I had that bad habit of in the morning or before I did the things that I wanted to accomplish for that day, I was watching TV, I was playing video games, and it was not very productive and didn't make me feel good about myself. So I know that's another rule that I need to follow. And then next, I have the do's, the things that I do want to do every single day. And you can start with just one or two of these. I think I have 10, 12 at this point. These include things like exercising, meditation, reading in the book The Gifts of Recovery, which I'll read to you I'll read a page to you at the end of this live stream. Writing in my journal, studying Spanish because I'm trying to become fluent, practicing and playing music, resolving all my emails and messages by the end of the day so that they don't pile up. Things like this that I know are important to keep me on track, keep me feeling good about myself. And then the last bit of this page is just a day-specific to-do list. So the night before I prepare this, I know, okay, tomorrow I've got live stream at 10 a.m. I've got my group at 8:30 a.m. I've got client B and client C later that day. And then I also want to accomplish clean up the apartment, whatever else you have going on for that day. So that when you wake up in the morning, you have this piece of paper next to you. You look at this and you have your mission for the day. You're like an arrow loosed from the bow. You don't have to wonder, oh, what am I going to do today? You already planned that out. Now is the time for action. So, hope that helps. Hope that inspired you. My pleasure. Edison, appreciate you being here. Tato, I know you're looking good, my bro. Thank you. I send you all my appreciation for what you did and do. I've read your book, and I cried thinking about how much I was identified by this addiction. Yeah, when I first started learning and listening to the stories of people in recovery, I was very affected as well, because I could finally see that I wasn't alone in this and that there was light at the end of the tunnel for me. So I'm glad you found my work. Omar, I was in NoFap for around 2 months. It was so good, improvement, but I relapsed because of sadness. But I already started again in NoFap now on day 6. Do you think it will be difficult again? Yes, 100% I can guarantee it will be difficult again. At some point it's going to be difficult. Guaranteed. That is a promise that I can make. That doesn't mean that it will be impossible or that you're doomed to be stuck in a cycle and to keep relapsing. Absolutely not. But you have to be aware that yes, it will be difficult again. That is always a guarantee. Addiction, and if you are addicted, I don't know you, but for me, I know that I'm addicted, and I know that addiction is lifelong. And that, like I said, doesn't mean that you are completely out of control or that you have no power to change your life and to leave porn behind. But it does mean that it will always be a part of you, and yeah, even years later, after you've not used porn for years, you might have a moment where yes, it's difficult again. So it's important to not become complacent, to be aware of the things that help you to remain porn free or addiction free, free from your self-destructive behavior, and to maintain those things consistently in your life, and using something like what I just described, and to have a plan in place for when that moment of difficulty and temptation does come, so that you're not lost and flailing in that moment. If you're really triggered, if you're really experiencing an urge, it can feel like 90% of your brain is just saying, go, 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 let's do this. Who cares? Fuck it. Let's just throw away all those values and all those things that we were trying to do and go for this right now. And that remaining 10% of your brain, it's very difficult to come up with an alternative and to make a different choice in that moment. So it's important to have a plan in place so you're prepared. You know exactly what to do if that happens. And a plan can be individual to each person, but it should get you out of that situation. Like say you're in your house or you're in your bedroom, your plan should get you out of that environment physically and emotionally, and give you some time to breathe, to let the wave of that urge pass, and to stimulate some more rational thought. Some elements of a good plan, maybe includes being physical, either putting on your shoes and going for a walk outside, or doing a predetermined set of exercises, or turning on some music and dancing. It should include some awareness of perhaps what is feeding into this urge right now. And a good tool for that is HALT, the acronym HALT, HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. And the purpose of that is to allow you to stop, to halt in that moment of being triggered, and to think through each of these things. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Do any of these apply to me right now? And if they do, then how can I address that directly? And if you can do that, then you'll probably find that urge to use dissipates. Oh, I haven't eaten all day. I'm going to make myself some lunch. Oh, I'm actually really angry at my friend. I feel like he burned me. I should give him a call. I should talk this out. Or, man, I've just been stuck in my house alone for the last 2 days. I'm pretty lonely. Maybe I can go see my mom or give my friend a call. Or, man, it's late at night. I'm actually tired. I could go to sleep right now. Go to sleep. And once you have that plan, once you decided what your plan is, how you would like yourself to act in that moment of having an urge, it's also important to practice it before you need it. It's like a fire drill. You want it to be muscle memory. You want it to be automatic. You want to know exactly what to do. So a few times a week, at least in the beginning, pretend that you're having that urge. Pretend that things are difficult right now and go through your plan. Actually act through it. And that way it's ready to go for when you actually need it and the chips are down. After having a streak and noticing the benefits, relapsing becomes really hard. Being conscious about the damage and still doing it just makes me feel worse. There are a lot of contradictions that we have to hold in mind at the same time in recovery. And one of those contradictions is, while you're porn free, while you're on a streak, believing that it would be a really big deal for me to use porn right now or for me to relapse. That's not okay. That's not something that is unimportant. But if it does happen, then you also have to believe, okay, it happened once. That doesn't mean everything is destroyed. It doesn't mean everything is hopeless. Because if you continue to believe that way, you're all the more likely to continue using to binge, to make yourself feel better, at least for a few moments. So hold that contradiction within yourself, and that can help. Before you relapse? No, hell no, I'm not relapsing. That would be a big deal. That's not something I ever want to do again. But if it actually does happen, all right, it happened. It was a mistake. It doesn't have to define me. I can move on. I can learn from it, and I can respect that experience by taking a lesson away from it. But I don't have to dwell on it. I can move on. It's not that important. Sam, hey y'all, 10 days into no FAP and no PMO. It's possible one step at a time. Welcome, my brother. 10 days is a great start. Thanks for that message. Hey Noah, I think that I don't like porn, but the emotion when I download it, the pleasure when I have the file already downloaded, and the curiosity for looking at it, I don't know how to battle that. Please help. The thing about addiction is it becomes much more about desire than it is about actual pleasure and satisfaction. And you might still be at the point where using porn is very pleasurable for you. Or you might realize that actually, when you're engaged in that, you're not actually enjoying it that much, but you still feel compelled to continue moving forward. And that's because as we use consistently over years, we get desensitized and we no longer feel the high of it, the pleasure of it like we used to. And that desensitization spreads to the rest of our life. Often we don't feel as engaged or engaged with our lives, or we're getting as much pleasure from our day-to-day activities, or just having a conversation with a friend, or smelling the fresh air. But we are also sensitized to the cues that activate it in us, that desire for porn. And so the wanting of it, the desire of it becomes very strong, but the pleasure of it gets lesser and lesser. And when you are able to recognize that that is a dysfunction of your brain, it's like a glitch, a bug in the system, your internal mechanisms have been perverted towards this addiction, then you can start to rise above that. So when you can recognize what's happening within yourself, that's a unique capability, I think, of the human animal, is we do have that capacity to abstract ourselves, to take a step back and just observe what's happening within ourselves emotionally, and to choose not to get swept away in that. So one thing that can really help building that skill, allowing you to make a different choice in that moment, is mindfulness meditation. So I recommend for you, check out the video and article I made on mindfulness for addiction recovery a couple months ago, I think. Again, on my website, addictedtointernetporn.com, and I'll also plug, if you haven't read my book yet, definitely read my book. It gives you the foundational information you're going to need on this journey. You can get the PDF for free, again on my website, just by subscribing to my email newsletter, which will give you a lot more useful information. And if you want personal help, of course, I'm available. Check out the website again, go to the Get My Help tab, and you can find out how to work with me through email, through a Zoom call, or through a phone call. And again, also, the Rebooter Support and Discussion Group is an option for you. It's a resource for you. It's something I highly recommend. I'll post a link to that again in the chat. It's $40 a month, run through Patreon. I think you'll find that the value is far greater than what you pay. Noah, why do some people recover longer than others, take longer to recover? Maybe because of relapses or peaking at porn? I'm just wondering because it is very scary, to be honest, even though I'm doing hard mode. Yeah, any sort of slipping or relapsing, peaking using pornography is definitely going to elongate the recovery time. So you can elongate it forever if you keep doing that, to the point where you never really recover. But as far as comparing different people who are all completely porn-free, all completely committed to the path, yeah, it's still going to take different amounts of time. And that can depend on various factors, some of which we are aware of, some of which we're really not, such as when you started using, the age you were when you started using. The younger, the worse, generally speaking. If you have sexual experience or not, if you've had any sexual experience outside of pornography, actually with real partners, that can help. The frequency of your use and the severity of your use, both in terms of time taken, amount of orgasms, and the nature of your use as well. If you escalated continually, desensitizing yourself and moving on to a new genre, these can all be factors that we can look at to guess how long it's going to take to recover, but it is still very difficult to determine. And what I tell most people is that most people see, or what I tell everybody, is that most people see significant progress within 90 days and full recovery within a year, as long as they do stick to the guidelines of recovery. Some people though take longer, and that only applies to maybe 60%, maybe 70% of the people that I work with. The remainder, they take longer. And so if it takes longer than 90 days to start seeing significant progress, or it takes longer than a year to reach full recovery, know that that's not really uncommon or rare, and that's still within the range of recovery that we see. When will anxiety pass, and when can we try to have real sex? If you're talking about sexual performance anxiety, then definitely check out the article and video I made about that a little while ago, overcoming sexual performance anxiety. If you're talking about just generalized anxiety, some people do find that their porn use and their masturbation is very much linked to their feelings of anxiety, especially social anxiety. And so you might find that just with time away from pornography, that starts to get better. You start to feel more calm and confident. But it's not just about time as well. There are things that you can do and skills that you can learn to help yourself deal with, whether it's social anxiety, generalized anxiety, or sexual performance anxiety. And yeah, check out my work for various tools to help you do that. Meditation, exercise, putting yourself out there, experiencing new things. And if it's sexual performance anxiety, I won't go over all that again, but you can check out all that information in the article. When can we try to have real sex? You can try at any time, and no one's mandating that you cannot do anything in this journey. But yeah, I would wait until you start to feel changes within yourself. And it's usually best for this to happen with someone that you're in a relationship with, or at least know well, you're comfortable with, you have an ongoing relationship with them, whether it's exclusive or just casual, rather than someone you've just met, because you'll be able to have more time, be able to be more relaxed with them, and be able to have more practice and more opportunity to try and fail, and for that not to feel like a momentous big deal. You want to be able to feel safe trying and failing. So some signs that you might be ready. I talked about this earlier, but more morning wood, more random erections, just more qualitative desire for that person, whoever you're with. And it can really, really help to have that conversation with her or with him so that they know what you're going through and there's not so much pressure to perform that first time. And if you feel okay about that, then you can experiment, you can try things, you can see how it feels without worrying about what will happen if you're not able to get an erection. Hi Noah, I'm almost 8 months in, 100% biologically healthy, yet still have ED, erectile dysfunction. I have morning wood, but not every day. Other than that, had only one random erection. What could be wrong? What should I do? Well, I need to know a lot more about you and about your story to really give you specific feedback and advice, but I can tell you that, like I said earlier, that's still within the normal range of recovery. It could still certainly be a porn-induced erectile dysfunction. If you're worried that it is something other than that it could be something physical, then go get yourself checked out by a doctor and get some tests done. It sounds like you have morning wood, so if you're getting morning wood, you're getting full erections, at least occasionally, then it's probably not something physical. If you're relatively young and relatively healthy, say you're 100% biologically healthy, so it could still be that you need more time. It could be that there's some other factors at play, such as anxiety about sex, that psychologically you need to address before you're going to be able to start enjoying sex. Hey Noah, how can we help our future children not become addicted when they grow up? Great question. And the number one answer is just communication, having open conversations about these things. And starting at an early age, and a way to do that is with Kristen Jensen's books, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. They're books that can be read between parents and children about the dangers of pornography. Starting at a very young age. There's Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior for quite young children, and then Good Pictures, Bad Pictures for, I think, children up to 12, but even after that, it contains a lot of useful information. I had an interview with her on the channel a little while ago, so if you want to learn more about that, you can check out that interview. The worst thing about this addiction is that you're doing it and feel okay, but after a while we start to suffer from it and we can't get away from it so easily. Yeah, it's a trap. It's like a honey trap, It's something that's very alluring, very pleasurable in the beginning. You don't see any downsides to it. And once you do start to see the downsides, by then we're often hooked on it. Many people get caught in the trap of addiction, and it's not something to be ashamed of. You weren't properly educated about this in order to make an informed decision, and you were probably too young to make that informed decision, even if you had been educated about it. So forgive yourself. Try to forgive yourself for that if you have shame, if you have guilt about it. And know that many people before you have walked this path and have broken out of that cycle of addiction. Do I have a podcast? I've had podcasts in the past. I do not currently have a podcast on this issue. What do I think of intermittent fasting for PIED? I'm not aware of any link between intermittent fasting and PIED recovery. It hasn't been researched at all. I can't really say much about that. Hey Noah, I've had ED for almost 2 years now. Despite my life being turned upside down because of porn, I still haven't stopped watching it. I still fool myself thinking this time is the last time. Yeah, I told myself that many times as well. And, I can't tell you how many times I've heard that from people. And it definitely breaks my heart to see people caught in that cycle for years, deluding themselves, trying to recover on their own, thinking this time will be different, but not doing the things, taking the actions that will make this time be different. So I'd love to see you get out of that cycle. If you haven't worked with me yet, consider working with me, consider joining the group. Just do something new. Make new action, take new action to get out of this cycle. Because if we want results that we've never gotten, if we want to be where we've never been, we have to do things that we've never done. And I know that there are things that you haven't tried yet. No matter where you are in recovery, no matter how much you've tried, I know that there's more that can be done, and there's hope for you. How common is porn-induced HOCD? HOCD is homosexual obsessive compulsive disorder. I usually call it SOCD, sexual orientation obsessive compulsive disorder. It is a facet of OCD, which most of you are probably somewhat familiar with, in which there's an obsessive worrying and anxiety and thoughts about your own sexual orientation. You're doubting your sexual orientation, you're consistently checking yourself and testing yourself. Most often it is people who have always identified as heterosexual, who have in their porn use escalated to content that makes them doubt their sexuality. That doubt has become a deeply planted seed within themselves, and something that is causing them a great deal of anxiety and distress, and that can be very difficult to overcome. And it is, I don't have statistics on how common it is, but I get guys with HOCD all the time who come and are seeking help. So you're definitely not alone if you're experiencing that. And what helps, well, there are two things that I'll talk about in that regard. One thing that can really help is simply time away from porn. As you have time away from pornography and recover, most people find that their desires return to their latent desires that they had before escalating in pornography. You might always have some interest in the things that you escalated to in porn that you never thought about or desired before that escalation, but it should at least fade into the background throughout recovery. And you should be able to get back in touch with what and who you're really attracted to and aroused by. And also working with someone who specializes in OCD, because HOCD or SOCD are types of OCD, can be really helpful. And they have the tools to help you overcome those obsessive thought patterns. Hey Noah, do you have any tips for dealing with loneliness in a COVID world? This is difficult as I got very sick myself, not COVID, before COVID, and lost a ton of relationships because of my illness. I'm sorry you lost relationships because you were sick. That sucks. But yeah, many people that I work with and myself too deal with loneliness in quarantine and lockdown. Hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel now with the research that's coming out and the solutions that are coming out. But yes, for now, many of us are still stuck in lockdown, and having a core group, your own bubble, whether that's your family or a group of friends who's agreed we're gonna hang out with each other but not with others, or hanging out with people in a socially distanced way, safe way, outside wearing masks, they can be helpful during this time. But if you don't have friends like that, if you don't have a bubble, then it can be even more difficult. And I don't know that I have all the answers, but there are still ways to connect with people. And I know that, especially in this journey, you want to start to get away from screens. But screens, computers and technology, they have a lot of ways for us to connect. And we can organize group meetings. And that's what I recommend for you, is take it upon yourself to be a social organizer, because a lot of other people in your life, I'm sure, are feeling lonely. So take it upon yourself to set up a Zoom call for your family where you can hang out and chat and reconnect with parts of the family you might not have seen for a while. Take it upon yourself to organize an online game or something with your friends so you can get together and chat and catch up without the risk. After starting NoFap, I started to get a little erection sometimes in the morning. This means I'm healing, right? That can definitely be a good sign of healing, especially if it's something that's new to you or that you haven't experienced in a long time. It is one of those signs that tells you that change is happening. Hey Noah, do you offer support and advice for partners of porn addicts? I fall into that category, and I was thinking about emailing you. Your content is invaluable and gives me hope for the future. Yes, definitely I do. I work with partners of porn addicts pretty frequently. So if you want to reach out to me and see what that might look like, please send me an email, noah@coachchurch.com. I also have a couple of videos and articles specifically for partners of porn addicts. So check out my website and just scroll down until you see the last one. I think it was a few months ago. I forget what it was called, but you'll see it on the website. Having healthy habits and goals to go for makes it easy to stop PMO, but the desensitization makes it really hard to start and keep doing anything. Any advices? Yeah, I think you're saying that you have trouble maintaining motivation to keep doing the healthy habits that make it easy for you not to use pornography. And that is something that a lot of us deal with, whether or not we're struggling with addiction or porn use. So my advice for that is to remember that motivation is bullshit. Motivation is a fickle friend, and it's nice to have when it's around. It's a good feeling, but it's not something that you can rely on. And motivation will often follow you more often than you will be able to follow motivation. What that means is that it's essential to develop disciplines and habits that you just do no matter how you feel. Like the daily page that I was talking about earlier, I make it my mission to do everything on my daily page, no matter how I feel. If I'm really tired or, if I'm sick or something, one guideline for myself is to do my best holistically. So if the best thing for me is just to sleep because I'm sick and not do the things on the daily page, of course, that's an exception. But if I know that it's within my capability, no matter how I feel, I'm going to do it. And that's because I know that feeling of motivation will follow action very frequently. So when I start doing something like exercising, I might not feel like it when I start, but once I start and I build up that momentum, I start to get into it. So that's my advice for that, is to discipline yourself, build up those habits to the point where it just feels wrong not to do that thing, whatever your habit you're trying to build up is, whatever that thing is, and however you feel. Besides quitting porn, what is the number one thing you can do to eliminate PIED from your life? Well, rewiring, I would say, is much more important than a lot of people think at first that it is. So there's two phases of recovery from a sexual dysfunction, and these phases often overlap and should overlap. Phase one, reboot. Leave porn behind. Most often leave masturbation behind, at least temporarily as well. Give yourself that time to heal. Phase two, rewire. Start to practice intimacy. Start to date. Start to experience that. Maybe for the first time, maybe for the first time in a while. And start to, at some point, attempt sex and to enjoy sexual touch. And that rewire is far more important than many people give it credit for. You're not going to lose out by waiting longer to start rewiring. Whether it's 6 months of rebooting or a year of rebooting, it's not going to hurt you to wait longer, is what I'm saying. In fact, it most often can help. But full recovery is not possible without rewiring. So keep that in mind and have reasonable, realistic expectations for how things will go when you first start to date and to have sex. Some people find that they're able to do it and have successful, satisfying sex the first time after a reboot. Most people, though, do not find that. Does looking at scantily clad women on Instagram to feel the desire to date real women qualify as artificial stimulation? Yeah, that doesn't sound like something I would ever recommend. It sounds like a rationalization that someone might tell themselves, oh, this is a good idea because it will make me want to date more, when really it might just be that part of you that's hooked on porn whispering a lie into your ear. And you also say motivation is not bullshit. It tells you what to do, tells you what you believe to be worth doing. It's vital to remember those motivated feelings when you don't feel it, to kick off the activity with discipline. I say motivation is bullshit because it's a striking phrase, but motivation itself, it's not bad. It's a great thing. It's a great feeling, and it's important to listen to that to find out what's really important to you, of course. But I say motivation is bullshit because I don't want people to rely on that feeling always. And I just want you to remember that motivation can often follow action, and you don't have to wait to be motivated in order to start taking action. Is edging the worst? Edging is definitely bad. Edging meaning using pornography, but either not masturbating or masturbating, but not climaxing, not reaching orgasm. And guys who get into the edging habit, and I was one of them, can consume a lot more porn and get a lot more of that dopamine high because they can use for hours and hours and are just delaying orgasm because they want to savor that experience of using. And that can be more damaging and accelerate the process of developing porn-induced sexual dysfunction or addiction than just looking at porn for 5-10 minutes, masturbating, and done. So yeah, edging is definitely a risk factor for a lot of these issues that we talk about. And definitely don't deceive yourself thinking that, oh, it's fine to look at porn, or it's better to look at porn if I don't masturbate or if I don't orgasm. No, honestly, it's better to look at porn and masturbate to completion in 5 or 10 minutes than it is to look at porn for 2 hours without touching yourself. For most of my clients, depending on your goals. How often do I do these live Q&As? This is the second time I've been here, and I think this is great support, an informative event. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I do it once a month, always on a Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific. You can always go to my website, and in the sidebar, there will be a link to the next event coming up. And if you're on my email newsletter, I send reminders on there about when these come up. So yeah, I hope you keep joining. Is it possible to get out of the flat line and then immediately get back into it? Yes, definitely that's possible. Flat lines can come and go. Some people experience none. Some people experience one. Some people experience many. And like I said earlier in this stream, there's often not a cause that you can pinpoint. It's just natural cycle of recovery. But sometimes there is a cause. Say you get out of the flat line and you're really excited to have your libido back, and you have sex 6 times with your partner over a weekend, and then you're back in a flat line. That can happen because you're kind of overdoing it while you're still in recovery and still sort of fragile. It's like you sprained your ankle and you wake up one day and you're like, oh, my ankle feels pretty good. And then you go out and run 20 miles. Oh, my ankle feels like shit the next day. It's because you overdid it when you were still healing. So that can be one risk factor for those guys who do find themselves falling back into flatline. And one thing that can help is to practice Carezza-style sex. Some people find that with Carezza-style sex, meaning sex without orgasm, they're able to continue enjoying sex without that hangover or going back into the flat line. That can happen when they have an orgasm or have too many orgasms too soon. So we're at the hour. Thank you all for joining me. I know there's questions that I haven't answered yet, but I hope you come back and join me next month. Hope you all have really happy holidays and a wonderful start to the new year. Word of caution, if you're waiting for January 1st to start this journey, I really recommend reconsidering, because you'll be in a much better place if on January 1st you have a week porn-free, or you have 2 weeks porn-free, and you have that foundation to build on, rather than being at the start, being just at the very beginning when January 1st comes along. So to end the stream, I'm going to read from today's reading from the book Gifts of Recovery. This is a daily reader for those in recovery from porn and sex addiction. So for December 19th, it says, tomorrow can be completely different from today. Everyone has issues and struggles. These may be connected to a relationship, our work, our family, our friendships, or anything else. Through these issues and struggles, it is important to remember that tomorrow has not yet been written. While today may be driving us nuts, tomorrow can be completely different. No matter how weighed down we feel, there is always a tomorrow. Am I stuck in feeling that nothing will ever change? What can I do to contribute to a better tomorrow? What gifts await me as I accept that tomorrow can be completely different from today? All right, y'all. I hope that I noticed the stream stuttering a bit. Hopefully the connection is good for everybody here. And I'll see you next month at the live, or perhaps sooner if you decide to join our recovery group or get personal help. Until next time, have a wonderful porn-free day.